Can a Formula One car end the confidence of a 7-time world champion? Is Lewis Hamilton in a silent crisis within Ferrari just before one of the most demanding races of the calendar? Today, you will discover the truth behind Hamilton's discomfort with the SF-25 and what no one in Maranello wants to admit. But as the Singapore GP approaches, the story has changed. It is now a drama of adaptation, frustration, and technical tension. And what happens in the following weeks will define not only the future of Hamilton in Ferrari, but the complete narrative of the 2025 season. To understand the origin of Hamilton's discomfort with Ferrari, it is not enough to observe the results or listen to the superficial statements. You have to go to the technical heart of the SF-25. What is not seen, to which it truly defines whether or not a pilot can trust his work tool. Ferrari's car for 2025 is a radical bet on several fronts. Its design is not a simple evolution of SF-24. It is a complete reinterpretation of key concepts. And while on paper promises superior performance in certain scenarios, its practical execution has created more questions than answers. One of the most problematic aspects is the hydraulic-assisted steering system. From the first tests, Hamilton reported sensations of disconnection with the steering wheel. In fast curves, the information that reaches your hands is not enough or precise. He doesn't know how much grip the front axle has until it is too late. And in Formula One, that is equivalent to blindly going to more than 250 kilometers per hour. The root of the problem is how the system interprets the load that passes through the front train. Unlike Mercedes, where the address provided a more linear and progressive reading, Ferrari has designed an architecture that varies in response depending on speed, steering angle, and the type of curve. In theory, this should optimize the pilot's physical effort and refine the car's response. But in practice, Hamilton feels that the car makes decisions he does not anticipate, and that for someone who bases its piloting on the absolute control of the front axle during braking is a direct blow to its handling style. The second major friction point is in the aerodynamic behavior of the SF-25, specifically on its rear axle. Technically, Ferrari has managed to generate a lot of load in high-speed curves where the car becomes stable and predictable. But that same load is poorly distributed in slow and mixed areas where the car transforms into something completely different. The aerodynamic pressure point changes place in the middle of the curve, which causes micro-disequilibrios that end up in unexpected survival or subfiring. This occurs because the SF-25 concentrates too much aerodynamic load in specific areas of the car's soil and does not distribute it progressively along the chassis. In tracks like Monza or Suzuka, where high-speed curves predominate, this can be an advantage. But in Singapore, with its urban layout of closed curves and violent braking, this defect becomes a nightmare. The most direct consequence is the loss of stability at the entry and exit of curve, just where Hamilton needs confidence to execute his classic trail-braking style and progressive acceleration. This has added another critical factor, the new front suspension type pull rod. Ferrari adopted this architecture seeking to reduce weight and lower the center of gravity of the car. But this change forced the management system to completely redesign, altering the way in which information is transmitted at the wheel. The problem is that this design, although sophisticated, reduces the range of sensitivity in low-speed maneuvers. The result is a sense of loss of reference in curves where millimeter precision is needed, such as forks or technical chicanas. The most dramatic thing about this set of elements is that, individually, they are not defects. They are engineering decisions that can work in certain contexts and for certain piloting styles. The problem is that, combined, they form a perfect storm for Lewis Hamilton. Each layer of this technical design enters into direct conflict with its habits, its references, its way of working with the car. And that cannot be corrected with a simple software update or an extra simulator session. What is here is a background incompatibility. A structural tension between the DNA of the car and the pilot's DNA. While Leclerc, for training and custom, has learned to live with the peculiarities of Maranello's cars, Hamilton needs another type of technical base to perform 100%. And the SF-25 is not being given. The worst thing is that this technical lag is not solved only with time. It is not a matter of mechanical adaptation only. It is a deep reprogramming of the relationship between pilot and car. And every race that passes without finding an effective solution is a career where frustration accumulates, trust is eroded, and performance suffers. Therefore, what happens with Hamilton and the SF-25 goes far beyond a lack of rhythm. It is the symptom of a design conflict. And in a season where McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull are not waiting for anyone, Ferrari cannot afford to leave his star pilot out of tune for longer. In Ferrari, internal competition is not a simple statistics game. It is a struggle of power, influence, and legacy. The Scuderia is a team that lives both results and narratives, and in 2025, that narrative revolves around two figures that embody completely opposite visions of success: Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc is not just the fastest pilot in classification for Ferrari. He is the emotional heir of typhossery, the silent protector of the technical structure, and the face that Maranello has chosen to build his long-term project. It has been within the team for years, understands internal processes, and has developed an almost symbiotic relationship with engineering staff, strategists, and even with the Italian media that orbit around the paddock. He is young, he is aggressive, and most importantly for Ferrari, he is his. By contrast, Hamilton arrives as an illustrious stranger. With 7 world titles, his palmarès eclipses that of any other grid pilot. But his experience is loaded with habits, demands, and a mentality that does not always fit with the traditional way in which Ferrari operates. Accustomed to having a direct voice in technical development, to be the central axis of strategic decisions, the British is now in an ecosystem where these freedoms are limited, if not directly questioned. This tension has been reflected not only in track performance, but also in the invisible nuances of internal management. In technical meetings, in strategic decisions during the race, in the type of feedback that is prioritized for car updates. While Leclerc speaks a family language for Italian engineers, Hamilton still translates their sensations to a system that has not been designed for him. This imbalance has begun to affect internal morals. Ferrari faces an unresolved dilemma. Should you continue to build around Leclerc, as it has done since 2019, or adapt to maximize the performance of a living legend like Hamilton? For now, the balance leans towards the first, and that has serious implications. Because Hamilton is not just any pilot, it is a figure that transcends the track. Its presence in the garage transforms the culture of a team, but also requires control, attention to detail, and an environment aligned to its standards of excellence. When those elements are not present, not only their performance suffers, their patience too. Internally, some filtered reports indicate that there are growing tensions on how SF-25 developments are prioritized. While the team has started working in solutions for the erratic behavior of the rear axle and the assisted steering system, it is not clear if those solutions are oriented in the style of Hamilton or if they simply seek to improve the car in general terms. The nuance is important because what benefits Leclerc may not necessarily correct the problems that affect Hamilton. In parallel, public dynamics also play its role. Every time Leclerc ends in front, the media account in Italy reinforces the narrative of the legitimate favorite. Meanwhile, any criticism or gesture of frustration by Hamilton becomes a holder. The pressure does not only come from the equipment or the car. It comes from the symbolic weight that means running for Ferrari being an external pilot in an environment that has historically demonstrated a strong loyalty to its chosen internal. And the most disturbing thing is that if this situation is not resolved soon, Ferrari could be found not only with an internal conflict that erodes his performance, but with the risk of losing emotionally Hamilton ahead of time. And losing the motivation of a champion like him, when the championship is still at stake, it would be a mistake that could cost much more than a few points. What began as the most promising signing of Ferrari's modern era, today is caught between the gears of a machinery that fails to synchronize with its star pilot. Lewis Hamilton has arrived in Maranello with all the weight of his legacy, with the intact ambition and the will to write a last glorious page in his career. But the SF-25 has not responded to that call. On the contrary, he has challenged him from all angles, technical, emotionally, and politically. The car not only represents an obstacle on the track, but a concrete manifestation of a team philosophy that still seems to prioritize its past over its present. Ferrari, a team accustomed to making decisions with the heart and not always with reason, now faces a dangerous paradox: to have in his hands the most successful pilot in history, and at the same time, not knowing how to use it. Hamilton's discomfort is not just a technical symptom, it is a reflection of something deeper, of a disconnection between intention and execution, of a team that has not yet resolved its conflict between tradition and innovation. And as long as that does not change, no matter how many laps give the SF-25, it will never become a champion car. But this is not the end. Actually, it could be just the beginning. Singapore is just around the corner. And that circuit, with its 23 low and medium speed curves, its narrow walls, and its constant demand for surgical precision, will not only test the car, will test the entire project. Now it's your turn. Do you think Ferrari should redesign his approach to Hamilton to save this season? Or do you think that Leclerc is the true pillar on which they must build the future? Are we seeing a passing crisis or the beginning of a definitive break? I read you in the comments.